Welcome to Sitting on the Stoep, being at home. Hi everyone. Today is a very special podcast because I'm interviewing someone who's come from the far north to the deep south. A dear friend of mine and student and colleague and many other things. Soul sister, Gro Wickstrom, who's happens to be in South Africa right now, from Norway. And so I've invited her to join me to sit on the stoep and have a chat. Find out what's important in each of our lives. So velkommen.
Tusen tack. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really, I feel very blessed to be able to be here again, and in particular being in your new house on your stoep.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you here. So I thought we might kick off by you just maybe telling a little about yourself, why you find yourself in South Africa right now. And then maybe you can just say a bit about how we met.
Yeah.
Maybe start with that.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good start. I had to look back in my notes, and the first time we actually met is 9 years ago in Kristiansand, Norway.
9 years ago.
9 years ago. 30th, 31st of May for a writing retreat, 2 days with a Norwegian author, organized by a friend of mine in Kristiansand.
In Kristiansand, where you live?
Kristiansand, Norway, where I live, yes.
In the south of Norway.
The very most south of Norway. We had beautiful weather.
Yes.
Early summer at our end. And both meeting you and also meeting Kristen, the Norwegian author who you were cooperating with, that had been on my list of dreams, actually, for quite a while. And all of a sudden, oh, she's coming to town. It's like, what's happening? So that was my first introduction to your method of messy writing or creative writing. And that was such a wonderful experience into digging deeper into myself from a very playful perspective, at least for me, it was like that. Afterwards, I did continue writing a bit, and then maybe early autumn, it came up you were doing a silent retreat in Italy in November, and that was an easy decision because it's like, yeah, I'm going, and that had also been on my to be experienced list for quite a while, and every time it came up, it didn't fit my calendar. This time, it's like, I'm going. So that's what I did. I traveled with one of my friends.
You came to the retreat with a friend, right?
Yes, I came to the retreat in northern Italy. And I remember you said you've been sort of taking care of us in a special manner. So we were in the tower, just the two of us next to each other and still apart since we were in silence. And I think what I remember most fondly was the day, Sunday evening, when we went into silence. Sunday evening until Friday. That's when we're going to get back into normalcy again. The way you blessed me, because it's only my experience, with moxa, I think that's the smoke you had. Mm-hmm. The light we got.
Pepu.
Yes.
Pepu, and we lit it. It had been given to me by Sangoma. And yes, we had it at that retreat. Smudged.
Fondly, yes, you did. And I just remember I thought that was such a beautiful experience as a portal going into diving deeper into myself in a very loving way. And now I'm here.
And now you're here, so we will get to why you're here and what South Africa, why South Africa has such a pull for you, why you wear around your neck that sweet little map of Africa with the heart in South Africa. But yeah, why don't you just share a little with our viewers who you are, what you do, what your life is like. I know from your Facebook posts you are all over the world. Every post in a different country, I think, a different place.
Yeah, well, I'm Gro. I'm Norwegian born and bred. I'm the oldest of just two siblings. I work in shipping, and most of my life I have been working in shipping, meaning international. And after a while, I really do understand why I actually chose shipping, because when I got my first job, I had other opportunities, but shipping had this pull on me, and that has remained like that. I was away from shipping maybe 3 years, and everything was wrong. So when I had the opportunity again, it's like coming back at the circus. Oh, now things are correct. It's like I love the feeling of working in shipping. I work with people, so I'm like an HR manager for a big scientific research drill ship. I've got 10 different nationalities on board. I've got 130 people. And the fact that I actually get to embrace the whole world, and that's how I feel it. I've got the globe in my hands. I get to envelope and embrace all my people. And I truly love them from the depth of my heart. I really do. And I think having that experience has been a complete game changer to me.
And the ship is a scientific research vessel,
yes.
Right?
So they're into taking out samples from the crust of the earth.
Core samples. You say, how many kilometers do the drills go down?
I think, from what I remember, I think they've been drilling down to 6 kilometers below seabed. So it's amazing. Nothing else. Yeah. I'm not a scientist, so I don't understand it. What I can relate to is the scientists' passion for what they do, that they put their heart into their work. And that speaks to me volumes.
So how do you get to travel so much?
Well, like I said, for work, from this job, which I've had for just about 5 years, the ship has been all over not totally all over the world, but I've been traveling quite a bit for work. And some people were saying, like, oh, it's such long flights. I love traveling. I love sitting on a plane, chatting up with new people, meeting people at a cafe, on the streets. You never know what kind of story we have to share. And whether it's for 1 hour, 5 minutes, or 2 weeks, you just don't know. I think this is what energizes my soul, if I might say it, something like that. And I'm so much looking forward to seeing my people. So the first time I met them, I remember I asked my manager, so how do I act like a crew manager? And he just looked at me and he said, well, be yourself. So I thought, okay, here we go. And I think I'm quite filled with joy, and I'm a happy person to be around. I love hugging. So it's just been something with the whole crew. I feel I was totally received as a person they would just embrace. And I felt the love just setting my foot on the gangway the first time. And it's just stuck on me. And I think that's what we are able to create when I meet them, wherever I actually meet them.
So I think you're very fortunate in that you love your work, you love the people you work with, and you obviously can support deeply the ethics of what the ship stands for and the shipping organization.
I think I've also been extremely fortunate with my managers. And when I had this position within the company 5 years ago, I'd never worked with crew. at all. But I was told I was the one having this ship because we took it over from a company we had abroad. And that was an immense recognition of my people skills. And I was really humble that kind of finally I got this sort of recognition that my love for people and my way of being with people had such an importance, in particular for this crew. So that's been an amazing experience, and having that kind of trust. It's been a profound experience for me in so many ways.
Tell me, what do you think you took away from the silent retreat? What, if you think back on, what did it mean for you? What was it like to spend a week in silence with a group of strangers in a monastery in Italy?
The first thing that actually comes to mind is, I think it must have been the second day of silence, because you remember you had this Italian woman giving massages. And Violetta. And you also said that if we needed to talk to someone, we could just put a note in a basket and we could have that conversation during lunchtime. And I remember sitting there in the morning feeling that I was completely out of place. We were 20 people, all Norwegians, and they all seemed to be in their own funeral. And I was having such a joy inside me. So I was like, what's happening? I'd then been to Violetta's for a massage. So when I then came back, it just, like my inner dialogue would be, come on, you can't sit here having this insane amount of joy in yourself. Look at the others. You have to sort of tune yourself down, blend in, don't look so happy. And when I had the conversation with yourself and Kristen, I remember you said if I was used to being too much, and that just hit the nail. It's right like that. And it's like I did understand, of course, because what I wanted to do, I just wanted to jump around for joy and hug people and take it out. And I knew I couldn't. And then I remember you said, Gro, try to hug a tree. And I remember I was like, what did she say? So I said, well, okay, I'll give it a try. So I ran down, left the lunchroom, ran down. There were 4 huge pine trees in front of where we were actually having the accommodation. So I thought, okay, that's my tree. Run for it. And that helped so much. It calmed down the energy to such an extent that after those remaining days, I had this super grounded presence and I could still feel the joy. So it was a very balancing, calming effect on me. I also greatly enjoyed being in silence. And at some point, I remember I got quite annoyed because people were rushing in the corridors, which didn't sort of fit to my... It's like, don't disturb me. Don't disturb me in terms of just exchanging glances and start laughing. I just want to be by myself because it was so beautiful. I think the acceptance of maybe that I'm not too much. I just am. That was beautiful. And that's what actually happened, I think, over the next days. After hugging the tree, after the massage with Violetta and your conversation.
I think you make a very, very important point. There is something, I worked in Norway for almost 20 years. So I met many, many Norwegians, such beautiful people. Something that always struck me is this kind of ethic, unspoken ethic. Don't shine too brightly. Turn your light down. You don't need to have your headlights up. You can be on dim and be just as effective. And I know in my own experience in meeting strong women like yourself, who have a lot of power and force, there are two aspects to the value of that. And of course, as you discovered during the silent retreat, if you turn the lights from the brights down a little, maybe it's not so overwhelming for people around you, but you can still have the power. But the thing is, there are times when that power can shine the whole world alight. Why not? And that's the invitation. So it's to learn, I guess, how to work with the great power within us. And you are a woman who carries that strong power. I remember years ago, I was at a workshop, a shamanic workshop, by quite a famous author, Michael Horner. It was a workshop in the United States. And someone asked a question, and she had just come in from a hike or something. She had a stick beside her. And he said, "Woman with big stick needs to speak with soft voice." And I love that, because there's the big stick of the power. And somehow when it's expressed with a soft voice, that it increases the sense of power. But it doesn't mean that the light always needs to be turned down. There are those times and situations when the great power is needed. And it's wonderful, to have you found in your experience that, for example, it feels to me like in your work environment, you can express your full power and are appreciated for it.
Definitely.
Yes.
And I would almost kind of split it in two, because even before I started working as a crew manager, I've been with the company for almost 21 years. I've always had this love for seafarers, and I find it so easy to be around them, just be myself. And I've always found it more difficult and even restricting in the office. So when I got the opportunity 5 years ago to work with the Joyous Resolution, which is the name of the vessel, again, that's when I started just feeling so extremely alive. Every time I met them, if I met with one of the agents in Manila, for instance, same thing. I was so appreciated for what I kind of felt like being halfway crazy. Yes. Or I love the way of being kind of flirtatious in life, meaning I see you, I recognize you, the good energies we create when we meet up. So that's what's happening with the ship. And after a while, I stopped tuning myself down when I came home. So in the beginning, it actually got physical. After coming home, then I just tuned myself down, because I knew that would just be too much.
In Norway?
Yes.
In Norwegian society?
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
And it got physical. And at some point, I'm like, no, I'm not saying depressed, but more like, I'm just so missing myself, because I love that way of being in life. So then I thought, okay, maybe I would have to see some other people when I come home who click on the same energy. So I want to sort of have this dip in a way, a mental energy. So when I came here, maybe I'm jumping now.
No, tell me about South Africa. What does South Africa mean for you in this context of feeling comfortable or feeling that you can express the fullness of who you are. Is there something about this country that activates that for you?
My first time in South Africa was Easter 98, so it's quite a while back. And I can't remember having had that feeling that I had when I came back 2 years ago. Still, I do remember the colors of the people. The difference now is that I feel everyone has a different light than was back in 98. So when I came back for work in February 22, that was simply amazing.
What was amazing about it?
The amazing thing was that the first people I actually met was coming to the hotel where I stayed in town. All the people at the Commodore in Cape Town there, amazing, nothing else. So then it was just like plug and play. It was like, wow, this is at all possible. They were very forthcoming. I felt as if, for one, the city itself, the way it's sort of designed and being embraced by Cape Town, and then coming in there, everyone from the reception to the people in the breakfast room, the guy who was making coffee. Still now, when I stayed last week, they remember how I want things, how I used to have things, and I haven't been there in quite a while. So my way of being in a flirtatious way in life was so appreciated. It was simply a homecoming I had no clue I could ever find. Nothing. It was so energy releasing. I just felt so at home, at ease when I even went. I didn't go like up in town after dark, of course not. But everyone went like that. That's how I felt. Whoever I met, whether it's on the street, it was this parking guy. This was still at the end of COVID with lots of stuff. People just hugged and kissed me, and I was like, whoa, okay. So it's actually happening now. And these things kept going and going. I have a few South African colleagues. They're the same. It's to me, it's a never-ending generosity of just accepting me the way I am, of enhancing my energy. And what I actually discovered when I came back last year, June, at the hotel, they said, Gro, we needed you so much to come just now. So I said, why? Because we like your energy. And like, I thought you were like this the whole time. And that has been very beautiful in a way that I actually realized to a much greater extent that it's what we create together when we just jump in with what we have. It's like when we open up, when I dare to travel and to be in life with an open heart, basically anything can happen. And it's simply amazing. Nothing else. Because like I told them, I need to be here because of you. So everything, it was a game changer in a way, realizing that this is what I'm looking for. And before I came back last year, June, I had sold out a girls' trip to Cape Town.
Yes, tell me about your girls' trip. Because I had the great opportunity to meet your girls and to run a workshop with them in Hermanus.
Yeah, that was amazing.
But I love the story of how you just had the idea. And tell me about it.
Like I said, I've always loved traveling. I think in my previous lives, I've also been a world traveler. So I had this old dream that at least one time, I want to put together my own trip to bring people to a place which has a great meaning to me, which would give them the under the skin experience I have myself, and a place where they would not want to travel, to give them a new horizon, to actually open up a new chapter of life in a way. So when I came in February 22, I met the local girl. She lives in Cape Town. She's from Kristiansand, Pernille Stalamo. So we started juggling ideas, and then she came to Norway summer, and everything materialized. Early January 23, everything was launched, and it was my vision was that we would be fully booked within a month, and that we'd have a waiting list, and so it was. So we traveled down, and then for some reason you showed up again. We'd kept in touch. Yes, that's how it was. And we had one day of the program that was like a surprise day. And what I remember, one of the girls said, "So, what about the surprise?" And I go, "Yeah, it's gonna be a surprise." Oh, so
I think you also need to just give a little background. That part of your trip was to cycle from Franschhoek to Stellenbosch. Right?
Yeah, we had actually put together a really nice program.
So it was quite an active. It wasn't just a come and eat and lie on the beach holiday.
That's not
it was a real Norwegian style excursion. A lot of biking and hiking and being in the mountains.
Yeah, we went for a walk on Table Mountain. We went to the Quartu Center, Langebaan. We did Stellenbosch, and I wasn't able to join for the bike ride from Stellenbosch back to Boschendal. But that was an adventure more than we actually
because it was just after the flood.
Yes,
and the path had washed away, and they had such an experience. These women.
I was just so happy I didn't join because I was so concerned for my foot. But it was amazing to see those girls coming back because some of them had been so scared and just thought, okay, there's just one way to get through it, throttle on and do it. One of them ended up in a bush.
To ride over dongas, the road had been washed away.
But they are brave.
They
were so brave.
Yeah.
So I think that's also one of the things that when I put the trip together, I wanted us to get hold of people who are willing to not exactly push themselves, but at least test out and be open to new experiences. The biking was one of them. The other thing was the writing workshop. And I was at Hermanus Hotel a couple of days back and met Kevin, and I said, wow, did this experience still stay with me? Because we had agreed that we would use a downstairs meeting room. So when I met him that morning, he said, no. Well, yes. Are you questioning my sort of control? And he said, no, I'm not questioning your control. It's just different. And then we went to the gallery.
The gallery he created in the art gallery, the most sensational workshop space. It was unbelievable. Tables in between all this art and beauty and sculptures and beautiful light, and
I mean, it was good. This was divine moment, nothing else. I remember I got the shivers just coming in there because a lot of the panels were huge panels, like 1 by 2 meters. Ocean, we're talking big waves. And we did a lot of different activities or writing exercises from your end. And I've been back to previous lives where I was Columbus, I was with Marco Polo, I was with the Vikings. And it's like I've been curious to know, so what is it about Cape Town? What is it about South Africa? And the piece we wrote, just when we wrote freely, that was amazing. When I read it afterwards, it's like, where did this come from? Because I was simply just sat back behind the wheel on a huge sailing ship waiting for weather to get into Cape Town. And it still gives me the shivers when I think of it. So it was, again, one of those defining moments in my life, I think. And for quite a few of the other girls too. And that's the beauty about it. That's That's also why I was so proud of those who were part of it, whether they enjoyed writing or not. Just sitting there, enjoying the music, enjoying your voice, because that's a healing in itself. I love your voice, and I was so happy you decided to go on podcast. But it was very defining, and it was
wonderful to stand in front of a group of women who'd just been through this enormous victory of this bike ride. Some of them who were experienced bikers, said they actually had never experienced anything quite so scary. So they pushed through that fear barrier. They were very energized, very excited. They sat in the room. They didn't know what they were there for, in the midst of this gallery of the most exquisite art. And then we went on a journey together. And then you all came to me for tea in the afternoon. And that was very special. Special for a few reasons. We were living at Lagoon Farm. When I initially invited Gro and Pernilla to bring your group and come and have tea here, you went, oh, fantastic. Because, as you know, Lagoon Farm with the beautiful Stoep overlooking the lagoon and the exquisite environment, we thought that would be such a treat for your group. Then, of course, the plan changed because that was a year before, or was it about 8 months?
June to October.
Yeah. Anyway, in the intervening months, Jeff and I went through one of our mad moments when we decided to sell up and move. So what to do about Gro's group coming, Jeff? And then I said, well, they will love the river house we've bought, the beautiful view of the river and a big stoep we can entertain. They'll be so happy, don't worry. But I don't think I'm going to say anything to Gro. Not until you get here, because I know how Norwegians work. You like to have all the ducks in a row, and it's a kind of a very organized way of being. So I decided not to say anything. But then, of course, the third factor intervened, and the flood came and completely almost washed our house away. And we were homeless, and we ran around trying to find a place to live and found all of this. But when you came to, the flood had happened.
It happened earlier that month.
It had just happened. Of course, that's why the path was washed away in the Franschhoek area. So I was quite shattered, actually, about how to cope with everything, to run this workshop for your group and to host you all at Lagoon Farm exactly as I'd committed to do, and not to say anything. Because I felt you were here for your trip. And they were there for that workshop. It wasn't about me. It's about the greater need. The greater need was for your people to have an absolutely amazing tea and experience. I found this wonderful woman, Sally, who lives in Stamford here, helped me cater for the event. And we put out this delicious spread. I mean, the table was just groaning with South African delights, cook sisters and milk tart and special South African dishes. And we had this wonderful tea. And then right at the end of it, because so many people said, oh, this is so wonderful. If I lived here, I'd never leave this place. And I'm going, yes, smile.
And then you told us.
And then I told you, actually, we're moving. And actually, we've had a bit of drama in our lives. And actually, a week ago, we were homeless, but now we have found a place to move to. So it was that kind of feeling. So there's something about that this leads me to linking up with what we were talking about initially about how to feel the power, how to shine the bright lights when needed, and then how to develop the capacity also to dim the lights, which doesn't mean dimming the power. It can, in this instance, for me, mean dimming all the emotion and trauma because I had a job to do, or because there were other people's lives and their happiness to be taken care of that was not more important, but just as important as the trauma I was going through. And so actually I found myself drawing on an inner power that maybe we could call professionalism, where you just rise up to the occasion to do what needs to be done, no big deal, and then to be able to share the details of the drama with you. You were so shocked.
I do remember you sent a message just before we traveled, and that it's been quite eventful since last time. I'll fill you in to the details once we meet. And I was like, wonder what this is. But yeah.
Yes.
And I think when you told me, I was like, my goodness. And then you took out time and energy to host the workshop, to have us here. And I think it's exactly like you say, a greater need, because I think that's also how most of us felt. I had no expectations as to what would happen during the workshop, and it just blew me away. For the setting, others were able to actually sit through, enjoy it. We're all different, so we had different experiences. And I also remember one of the girls from the group had an accidental conversation with Jeff at your house for tea, that you knew some people she knew back in Norway, and that we were just wondering what happened over there, that end of the table. And she was so very pleased having that experience for her. So I think that was, again, a life-changing moment for her, to be seen the way Jeff was able to see her. So it was just moments of bliss.
And Gro, when I think of that workshop, I think it was one of the best workshops I've ever facilitated, because I had all the intensity of the drama. I don't think I'd slept for weeks. We were homeless. It was a really scary place to be. Our dream home had completely flooded. We didn't know what the future held for us. And, but I found myself drawing, it's kind of like drawing up the richest parts of myself. To stand in front of, it felt like, how we live on parallel realities. I really got to understand how these parallel realities can work together. The more fluid you become, to be able to drift into one reality, then another. It's a kind of expertise one can develop. It's a sort of muscular ability.
Yeah, I think
it would be almost like doing a triathlon, going from kayaking to swimming to running to archery, different skills, different levels of focus. And the one benefits the next. They all work together. So, yeah. So I want to end our little. Are we?
I've got 2 questions.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So, point 1, the dimming the lights. I like that analogy. I think it's also when you were saying that feeling of too much, when you could feel too much, it's almost like you feel a bit out of control because you feel all this energy. So the dimming is, I was seeing it in my head as like a rechanneling of the energy. So running to hug the tree, you could still achieve what your body wanted to do.
Yeah.
In a safe way that still fueled you and then allowed you to carry on with the retreat instead of sitting there the whole time going, oh, I've got this feeling and I don't know, I can itch, like I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with it. So I was wondering, what do you do now for grounding? I mean, literally running, hugging trees, probably can't do that on the ship.
Well, there are not many trees on the ship, but it's been a while. But where I live back home, it's pretty close to the forest, basically in any direction in town. So I would do that sometimes, not even for just joy, but to ground myself. And also have an emotional release if I feel really sad and it's like something I can't cry. I remember I had a Sunday morning. I went for a run in the forest. And it didn't help. I feel like almost suffocating. That how can I get it out? So I thought, okay, it's a tree. So I looked for a proper tree with a view. And I was standing there crying like crazy. And this male jogger, he passes and you should have seen the
Imagine what he said when he got home. He's like
8:30 on a Sunday morning. But it helps so much. That deep connection with trees. Another thing is also I would sometimes just take my hammock, go out in the forest, but it has to be trees. It doesn't work with poles because the energy is dead.
Yeah.
Just put my hammock on, preferably with a view, and then I can sit just for maybe an hour. Just hanging there, that deep connection.
It's amazing.
Can you imagine there's someone doing this in South Africa?
No.
You see, the thing, Simone, you have to know in Norway, you can send children up into the forest by themselves. And a lot of children have that memory of just running in the forest.
Yes, I'm imagining this pan across the forest. So there's like all these kids building forts, doing stuff. And then there's like Gro hanging in the tree.
Yeah.
Like one adult and then more kids collecting cones and sticks.
That's a beautiful pattern.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do. Well,
so you find
I dance.
Nature. Nature is, and this is, I often used to say to my Norwegian students, you are the richest country in the world. Not because of the oil, because of the connection with nature. It's so deep. It's the love of nature, the love of the mountains, the love of the ocean, the love of weather, of snow, of everything, that nature brings is so deeply rooted in the culture.
When you're talking about this now, all of a sudden, this is one of the reasons. Because a lot of the nature of what I've seen here, a lot of it reminds me very much of nature in Norway, different places. So it's like just around the bend, it's like, oh, this could be Norway. And then you change again, oh, not here, but no again. There are so many similarities, and I was just getting the goosies, like you would say. Maybe that's the connection, and what I'm getting here and not at home is the open appreciation from people for who I am. And this is what I miss out.
Great. So now I'm coming to the last question that I'm going to be ending all interviews with this question. And I'll just tell you why I feel it's important, because in my own experience, I was sitting opposite someone many years ago, and when he leaned across the table, we were in a coffee shop, and asked me this question.
And it sort of came as such a shock to me that I gave a completely honest answer. And I probably shouldn't. Maybe I'll go into more detail sometime about it. But so the question is, Gro, what do you think about most of the time?
The first word that comes to mind is love. Because I think that's basically the response to everything. And to me, it's been a game changer when I finally allowed myself to embrace and love myself. From that point on, everything's changed. That's also why I think I've changed my outlook on the world. That's also where I think I'm able to meet people and believe that we are enough. There's always something good. And whatever you did, that might be wrong. But you, as a person, you can never do.